Hi, my name is Jolie Pollard and I am the founder and formulator behind IKOOMA, a Belizean seaweed hair care brand. And today I want to show you how I'm going to use seaweed or sea moss to create a classic Belizean seaweed shake. I'm going to take a tablespoon of this Blue Nutrients sea moss, and so let's look at it. So looking at this blonde sea moss, I just want you to notice how clean it is. It also smells really great. That didn't just happen like that. It's because the farmers who produce this product really take their time to nurture this seaweed and clean it properly with just fresh water, and then it's dried in the sun. It really just takes a lot of artisanal skill to get you this level of quality. So I can tell you that I have been using this product for so many years, and I trust it enough to put it in very premium hair care products. It is really beautiful, and let's show you how to prepare it. So I have a tablespoon here, and I'm going to take just some of this seaweed and show you what a tablespoon of it looks like. So about what I have in my hand, about half of that. So here I have a tablespoon of dried sea moss, and I'm going to put it in a little bowl. And now what I want to add to this, 1 tablespoon of dried sea moss is just about 1.5 cups of hot water. This is the tablespoon of dried sea moss that was soaked in 1.5 cups of hot water. So this is what it looks like after it reconstitutes. Now if you touch this, you'll notice it's very slippery. Seaweed is very hydrating, and this is why it's so wonderful in hair care and skincare. Now to get a really smooth gel, I like to just take this reconstituted sea moss and put it in the blender. So the sea moss is in the blender. We have our blended sea moss, a small pot. So I'm just going to pour this in the pot. That 1 tablespoon of dried Blue Nutrient sea moss with 1.5 cups of hot water, and it's been soaked, blended, and now I'm going to put it over the stove. And this is so we can really achieve that gel consistency that we want to use in our Belizean classic Mr. Cleveland Berry Seaweed Punch. So I have my sea moss on the stove, seaweed on the stove, and I am stirring it constantly because I don't want it to burn at the bottom. So just look out for those little bubbles, because when it starts to boil, then you can take it off the stove. So what a lot of people don't know is that the Irish came up with these ingenious ways of preparing the seaweed so that they could make puddings and porridges and drinks. And they used it because it gave them the vitality they needed to press on during the Irish famine. So seaweed is rich with so many minerals, and it helps with your immune system, it helps with the gut. It also has some protein, so all of these things would help you survive during starvation. The Irish were using Conjus crispus, which they called Irish sea moss. When they arrived in Jamaica as indentured laborers in the 1800s, they brought this knowledge with them to the Caribbean. And that is why in the Caribbean you'll hear sea moss, or in Belize you'll hear seaweed. So my seaweed or sea moss has come to a boil, and so what I'm going to do is remove this from the heat, put it to cool for just a few minutes, and then I'll transfer it to the refrigerator and leave it in there for about an hour so it can cool down into a beautiful thick gel that will serve as the nutritious base of my grandfather's famous seaweed punch. I have here the sea moss, which I will be preparing as a shake later, but we want to put it to cool before we can do that. So I am taking our yield from that 1 tablespoon of dried sea moss and 1.5 cups of hot water, and then that was subsequently boiled after soaking for a few hours. And this is we're going to pour this back into our bowl. So here we have our final sea moss solution prepared with just 1 tablespoon of Blue Nutrients dried sea moss, and so that was soaked in 1.5 cups of warm water, and then blended and then transferred to a tiny pot and brought to a boil. And so what we have yielded here from that 1 tablespoon of dried sea moss is about 1 cup of this liquid sea moss that will convert into a thick gel once it has cooled in the refrigerator. So we're going to put this to cool in the refrigerator and make a classic Belizean seaweed punch. But the sea moss is out of the fridge and I am so excited because this proportion of water to the dried sea moss worked out beautifully. So Blue Nutrients is right on target with the instructions on the back of the package. That will definitely not fail you. So this is what the gel looks like. It is so thick. Look at this. And it's only cooled in the fridge for about 1 hour. So I have about 1 cup of ice that I will be adding to the blender. A 1/3 cup of evaporated milk. Now, today in the wellness space, I don't think anybody is using evaporated milk, but this is what my grandfather used to make his punch, and that's because many years ago, this is the only kind of milk you could find in many communities in Belize that didn't have access to fresh cow's milk. So evaporated milk is what they use, and this is his recipe. So a 1/3 cup of evaporated milk, a cup of ice, a 1/2 shot of brandy, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and also some nutmeg. 3 tablespoons of our beautiful Blue Nutrient sea moss gel. And so the amount of gel that we got from that 1 tablespoon of dried sea moss could give us about 3 of these shakes. So we have all of our ingredients in the blender. We have our Blue Nutrients sea moss gel, which we prepared using 1 tablespoon of their dried sea moss based on the instructions behind your packet, and it was perfect, truly the perfect recipe to get the right consistency for the gel. I absolutely love how the gel came out, and then I also added ice, evaporated milk, brown sugar, and nutmeg and brandy to make my grandfather's classic seaweed punch. Okay, so it's time to serve up this shake. Oh. There we have it. Definitely something I wouldn't have all the time. There's a lot of sugar in this, but it's a treat and it's a local classic. But you can definitely make a lot healthier versions of this, so you don't have to use evaporated milk. You can use skim milk, you can use almond milk. You could also substitute sugar with a natural sweetener, a calorie-free sweetener, or some honey. And you can use fruits. You could do so much with this seaweed gel. But if you want to just make a classic Belizean seaweed punch, this is it.